Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at this channel, New to Happiness. I'm so happy that you're here and finding out this channel slowly because it's very new. I have an old channel that it's a few years old in Hebrew, in my main language, but this is a new thing and I'm very happy about it. And this channel has to do with highly sensitive people and people who are dealing with narcissistic relationships or healing from narcissistic relationships. And today I want to talk about dealing with the side effects or the more difficult aspects of being highly sensitive and what can be done about it. If anything can be done about it and what can be done about it. And the question came about in the conversation that I had with one of my clients who actually said that many times being highly sensitive is very depressing, and he feels that there's no hope for him ever to change because of who he is and what he's like. And of course that I understand that in many ways, and of course that I relate to it in many ways. But in this specific video, I want to talk about what we could do and what we could try to do, or the things that could in many ways help us take some of the harsh or the more difficult aspects of being highly sensitive and maybe soften them a little bit, and maybe even in certain aspects change those certain ways that we used to be into a different way. And what do I mean by that? I'll go into details in a second, but first of all, but before that, I want to say that one of the most important things that I tell myself and that I tell other people, that changing traits that we have, that we were born with, such as high sensitivity or the related aspects, we have to remember that it always has to be a process. Just like other changes that we want to make in our personality or in our way of life or in our addictions or whatever, we have to take into consideration that it has to be a process in small steps, very gradual, and very slow, because otherwise it doesn't stick and it doesn't stay that way, and then we go back to our old habits and everything very easily. So that is one thing that I have to mention in the beginning. After saying that, I want to go with you through a process that I know helps me myself, and I know helps other people around me also. And that is the process of how emotional reactivity and high intensity of a reaction to whatever is going on around us happens in a highly sensitive person. And the first stage is the something happens, an event that triggers us, that makes us uh, experience start to experience hard feelings in our bodies, and then starting to interpret it and call it with a name, with a certain adjective or whatever that describes the feeling that we are feeling. For example, if somebody that we don't like calls us on the phone, that's the trigger, that's the first thing. And then we feel something inside us that gets uptight, or our stomach starts to hurt, or a headache. We get a headache, and then we tell ourselves, okay, this makes us upset. Okay, those are the first two stages: the trigger itself, and then the bodily reaction that is actually the emotion that we call in a certain name. The third stage of this process is our thoughts. We start to think about the situation. We start telling ourselves, I hate it when he calls me. Why does he always have to be so annoying and keeps on? Why doesn't he get the hint? This makes me anxious. He did this and that to me, and whatever. And we go through a whole roller coaster, or a whole process of being annoyed and upset and not happy with whatever is going on. And then our emotions get intensified, and our thoughts and emotions run around in circles and making everything a lot more intense. And this is what brings on a lot of as I said, the high intensity emotions, the depression, the anxiety, the overthinking, and all those things that we don't like about being highly sensitive. So after realizing that there are these three steps that are relevant to everybody actually, but what happens to a highly sensitive person is that the trigger itself and the reaction, the bodily reaction, and the thoughts that run in our minds, everything is much more intense, and this whole process makes everything go round. It makes you more and more overwhelmed and more upset and more anxious, and as I said, overthinking about everything, and the cycle goes on. And what I usually suggest to myself and to other people is to catch this process at the stage where the bodily reaction begins. The trigger happens, somebody calls me, I immediately feel a notch in my stomach or something that is not good for me, and I slowly, gradually practice on recognizing that, catching it when it's small, understanding that something is happening, and I know what's going to happen now. What's going to happen, the next stage is going to be a certain emotion. I'm going to tell myself this is what I think, and then the thoughts are going to start running around in circles, and everything is going to get intensified. And when I catch this process right here, after the trigger and the bodily reaction, I can change the way the thoughts are running around in my mind, and I can make myself look at this whole situation differently and stop this roller coaster of emotion from getting worse and worse. How do you do that? Like I said before, as a process, you start recognizing the triggers, the things in your life that make you have a bodily reaction that drives this process forward. And I actually send myself and other people once in a few weeks or month or whatever to recognize the triggers, the things that make you go through this motion, and start even writing down or just telling yourself, this is a trigger, this is something that makes me triggered. It could be a person, it could be an hour during the day, it could be the weather, it could be a certain situation, it could be a smell, it could be actually anything in your life. But it's very interesting to see when people start to observe themselves and see what are the reactions that they are, what are the triggers and what bodily reactions they get to it. Many wonderful things start to happen. People started telling me that there's a certain hour of the day when they know that something is going to start happening, because they already realize that 6 o'clock in the evening or whatever is a trigger time for them for all sorts of reasons, but they already know to expect it. They already know to expect the bodily reaction, and so they come prepared to the situation, and they cut the cord and they make themselves think other thoughts or just stop the bad thoughts from coming in, and the whole process is different. So this is in a nutshell. I mean, very, very fast and very like going through the motion very in a very fast way. The way that highly sensitive people could start slowly, gradually, in small steps, a process of changing the reactions and the high intensity emotion that they get many times during the day. And I actually I love this process, and I love the fact that once you understand it, you look at everything differently. But what I want to recommend is, first of all, to take it, as I said, slowly. Start recognizing the small triggers that are in your life or throughout the day. Tell yourself, these are my triggers, first of all, and then rest for a week or two. Afterwards, start connecting the bodily reaction to that trigger and rest again. And then try to change or replace the thoughts that are making you go through intense emotions, and change them with either other thoughts or something that calms you down and makes you feel good, and see what happens. And I would love to hear from you and hear your comments and reactions, or whatever you think that is relevant. Just let me know if this is relevant to you, and if it helped you in any way. Also, if you want to, I would appreciate if you follow this channel, if you give a thumbs up to this video, and I'll see you next week on Sunday on my weekly video. Thank you so much, and bye bye.